Are we ready upstairs?
We're ready.
Good evening and welcome to the August 17th, 2023 meeting of the West Sacramento Planning Commission. Tonight's agenda is available on the counter along with request to speak cards. A reminder to everyone that request to speak cards should be completed and turned in to the clerk prior to the completion of any staff presentation. For those wishing to speak on items not on the agenda but within the jurisdiction of this commission, please write item 1 on your card. All speakers will be limited to 3 minutes. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and televised, so all speakers, in order to be recognized, must be called on by the chair and come forward to the microphone. Speaking in public may cause some individuals to be uncomfortable, so everyone is asked to be professional and respectful at all times. Okay, we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Anderson, can you lead us?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic that stands one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
With that, we'll turn to General Administration Function, Part 1. Presentations by the public on matters not on the agenda, but within the jurisdiction of the Commission.
We have no public comments.
Thank you. Item 2, correspondence and staff communications from the Planning Secretary.
Yes, briefly, the Commission should have received a memo regarding item number 6 by email late last week, and we have additional copies by the side if you don't have it in front of you, and we will address that when we get to that particular item. And then also Commissioner Wong has an excused absence, so good to see our alternate, Mr. Anderson, here with us tonight. That's all for staff communications at this time.
Okay, and we have item 3, staff communications from the City Clerk.
Good evening, Chair, members of the Planning Commission. My name is Jennifer Kushmir, and I'm the City Clerk here at the City of West Sacramento. I'm just going to go over really briefly the memo provided to you from our City Attorney's Office regarding Agenda Bill 992. Sorry. So on January 1st of 2021, Assembly Bill 992 went into effect, which amended the state's Open Meeting Act in regards to use of social media. We are asking that all council members and commission members keep in mind when using social media platforms that any platform that you're using to address matters within the jurisdiction of West Sacramento and your duties here on the Planning Commission are open and accessible to the public. So they're not private groups that you have to get permission from a moderator to enter. We do ask that you answer questions and provide information to the public or use those platforms to solicit information from the public regarding a matter that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of your legislative body. And we also ask that you pay attention to the social media posts to ensure that no other planning commission members have commented, liked, or shared that post. In the event that a quorum of you do respond to a post on social media, it could be a potential violation of the Open Public Meetings Act, the Brown Act. So we do ask you to be mindful of your social media use in your capacity as a Planning Commission member. And just as a reminder, I kind of brushed on it during our orientation, the City Clerk's Office and the City Attorney's Office is not the social media police, so we are not monitoring your social media use. We are not checking to see what posts you're commenting on or liking. However, if it is brought to our attention that there is a potential violation, we will have to investigate that. Are there any questions? Excellent. So at the end of your meeting, if you could sign the acknowledgement form that you received your memo from the City Clerk or the City Attorney's Office and provide that memo to Tanya, we will update all of your files, and Lori Ledesma, the Senior Deputy Clerk, will note that you have completed this part of your Commissioner orientation. Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you very much. Okay, Item 4, disclosure of ex parte communications. Do any of the commissioners have anything to disclose? Okay, none. We will move on to our consent agenda. Item 5, consideration and approval of the minutes from June 15th, 2023. Any motion?
I'll make the motion to approve the June 15th, 2023 commission meeting minutes.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Olivares and a tie for second with Vice Chair Jackson and Commissioner Delgado.
Commissioner Linker,
Present. No. Aye.
Commissioner Olivares,
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson,
Abstain.
Commissioner Squires,
Aye.
Commissioner Delgado,
Aye.
Vice Chair Jackson,
Aye.
Chair Sablon.
Aye. Next, we have public hearings. Item 6, public hearing regarding tentative map parcel number 5242 for condominium purposes for Bridge District Phase 6 project. We have Mr. Lee presenting on this.
Hello, everyone. So this is for agenda item number 6, 999 Riverfront Street tentative subdivision map. Yep. So this project is located within the Bridge District specific plan area. This is a waterfront-oriented urban district with a mix of commercial and residential uses. The project site is 3.28 acres and is in the waterfront zoning designation. It also fronts Riverfront Street and is just south of the barn, as we can see there, and directly adjacent to it. So these are the project elevations. This is a by right project, so there's no discretionary review. It gained design review approval in 2023, early 2023. So there's two components to the project itself. One aspect to the right is the residential component. There's 260 units proposed, along with the building being 7 stories. And then the other component of the project is the mixed-use amenity building, which is 5 stories and will contain commercial at the first floor, in addition to office space and amenities for the apartment. And the view you see right now is from Riverfront Street facing the west, so facing Sacramento, or the east, excuse me. So what's being considered today by the commission is the subdivision map for condominium purposes. As noted on the memo, there is potential for condominiums, but 30 residential and 20 commercial. This is just flexibility for the developer. They don't necessarily need to build them. It's just giving them the options going forward. It also represents an opportunity for financing. So if they want to convey separate loan ownerships for the residential and the commercial building, that's just another option for them if they choose to go that route. I'd like to remind everyone, this is what's being considered. The previous project showcased was the by right approval with no discretionary review. We're looking to, the staff recommendation is to find that the tentative subdivision map is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act, and to approve the requested tentative subdivision map subject to the conditions of approval. That concludes the presentation, and are there any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Any questions from the commissioners? Seeing none at this time? Oh. Commissioner Anderson.
I'm quite figured out how to.
I think it was, no, it's not. No, you had to push it again. There we go.
Hello? Okay. Anyway. I asked some questions earlier about the office space. Currently, office space is not much of a interest in it. And also, you noted interest rates would probably be higher.
Mm-hmm.
Now, are you saying that we really have no way of recommending or encouraging alternatives to the office space, or is that just because it's been previously approved, or is that something that we can make comment and recommendations on?
Well, so the project is non-discretionary, so we as staff and commission, there's no potential for them having to follow that. So it's up to the applicant to make that determination, since what's being considered today is just a condominium map and subdivision.
Well, but are we going to see a separate item for the office area? Or is that, are the condominiums in that building, or are they on the other one?
So it's just the option to develop it at a later date. So it would be up to the discretion of the applicant as well to go forward with that if they so choose.
I
So
see.
there would be 20 office condominium spaces up to at least, so.
Has the council made any messages to, or official or unofficial comments regarding the desire to limit offices and bring about higher levels of residential?
I'll defer to the Secretary of the Commission on that.
Yeah, Commissioner Anderson, I'm not aware of the council expressing such a preference. I think we'd like to hear from the applicant on this evening, but I believe part of the game plan and reasoning behind the office would be actual offices for their own company. So perhaps they can address
I
that
see.
when
That
that
would be
time
helpful.
comes.
Thank you.
It's a couple of things. One, in the statement for justification, it says that the applicant is seeking tentative map and final map approval. So which one? But in the materials, it says it's tentative map approval. Question one. Question two is, in the materials, I only see a map that outlines the parcel and the topo map. So what is there a development map that we're supposed to be approving, or I'm not exactly sure what type of map we're actually approving here.
Yeah, so I'll go back here. Yeah, so this map is just the tentative subdivision map, so that's all that can be approved at this time. There's not really a site plan because the applicant would need to work with the Department of Real Estate to get those dimensions, and that will be with the final map, which they would seek approval later for.
Okay, so this map then is the map that we're approving is just the outlay of the boundaries of where the development is proposed to go.
Yes, and with additional notes on the map itself.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
this is not something we see a lot, condominiums, but division of airspace, which is really what condominiums are, is a type of division under the MAP Act. So yes, it will remain one parcel, but then this would allow a future division of airspace to actually get to a point where you would have condominiums that would be available on a for sale basis versus something that will be rented. We don't know at this time if that's the direction the developer will ultimately go. However, this does provide that option and is often done at this stage just in case the ability to market and finance condominiums becomes a reality. So tonight you are essentially approving this map here, but really what it would ultimately result, if it ever goes final, would be division of air for airspace purposes.
So then would it be appropriate then for, so I guess the thing that I'm kind of stuck on is this in the justification where it says tentative and final map approval.
Yeah, so for all maps, the Planning Commission approves tentative maps. And then once the various conditions are satisfied, the City Council will approve a final map, which is a ministerial action at that point and done commonly. There was just one last night, as a matter of fact, at the council. So the Planning Commission gets us to this stage, and then they will go into much more detailed design, working with our engineering team to ultimately prepare a final map. And that's something that once all conditions are satisfied, improvements are made, other subdivision improvement agreements, et cetera, are done, then that would be taken by our engineering group to the city council for final approval.
Okay. And then one thing, just for my own general knowledge, what the heck is podium parking?
Podium parking is where there's podiums underneath the buildings, like on another level, and there's additional parking underneath. So
Okay,
it's a
that's what I
portion.
thought.
Yeah.
All right, I just wanted to be sure about that.
Secretary Terley, I think you may have answered my question, and maybe you have it as well, Mr. Lee. So the for finance option, that's at the applicant's discretion, and that's for the option to buy, that the resident to buy, or is that financing from the city for the build?
Financing from the developers, interested parties
Okay.
to build the structures
Yeah.
themselves.
This is an entirely private project.
Okay. And have we done something like that before in the city of West Sacramento?
We do have condominiums here in town, airspace condominiums. Riva, for example. There's the other ones up by the rivers. I don't recall their name offhand. So condominiums, were all the rage at one time, and unfortunately, they've kind of gone downhill with a lot of the construction defect stuff, and it's very difficult to build them and get the insurance for them. But they do really represent a really important missing niche in the overall housing market. So it would be great if it would be possible to start doing more condominiums. Those really often are the entry level for homeownership. It would be a condominium, especially now with how expensive, single-family homes are.
Thank you. I'm comfortable and prepared to make a motion, but I'll defer to my other commissioners for further questions.
Do we have any public comments?
We have no public comments on this item.
Okay, thank you.
So we're going to open the public hearing then and invite the applicant if they have any comments?
Okay, so the applicant has comments?
If they do. Not seeing any.
Okay. Okay, so we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission for deliberation or motion. Any? Do we have a motion or any discussion on this item?
I'll make the motion to find that the tentative parcel map is exempt from the CEQA requirement, as well as approve the tentative parcel map subject to the conditions and findings as identified by staff's report.
We have a motion by Commissioner Olivares,
I'll second the motion.
a second by Commissioner Delgado. Yeah, Commissioner Anderson?
That to work. I would love the developer to comment on the 45% of that structure being office space. If there's any thoughts on it, I would be interested in knowing if they are really planning on using that entire space, or, yes, go ahead.
So just our city attorney, just a quick question. So reopen the public hearing and then, okay. So we'll reopen the public hearing to hear from the developer.
I'm sorry, I should have asked the question earlier, excuse me.
All right,
I think
can
your
you
mic-
speak
yeah.
closer to the mic? Thank
Or
you.
is it on? It is, I don't see the green light.
Hi, Commissioners. Thank you for your time this afternoon. To answer your question, we are, skeptical of office as well. In this particular situation, the building is a fairly small footprint, and the office that's on the ground floor as well as the fifth floor is going to be used exclusively by our office. We currently have an office located in downtown Sacramento, and we're looking to move our corporate office to this location.
Thank you.
And can you state your name for the record?
Oh, sorry. Gurjeet Tour with Fulcrum Property.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions from the commission? So we'll close the public hearing and then bring it back to the commissioner, and we have a We have a standing motion by Commissioner Oliveras and a second by Commissioner Delgado.
Commissioner Delgado,
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson,
Aye.
Commissioner Squires,
Aye.
Commissioner Olivares,
Aye.
Commissioner Linker,
Aye.
Vice Chair Jackson,
Aye.
Chair Sablon.
Aye. Okay, thank you. With that, the motion passes, and good luck. Item 7, public hearing.
Just say 10 days.
All right. Any interested party may appeal the decision of the Planning Commission in this matter to the City Council by filing a written appeal with the city clerk within 10 days of tonight's action, and that appeal must be accompanied by the appropriate filing fee.
Thank you. Okay. Item 7, public hearing regarding design review and approval of Resolution 23-2PC, recommending the City Council approve the River One Phase 2 project. And Mr. Laffey will be presenting this project.
Yes, good evening, Chair, members of the Commission. This item before you tonight is to consider approval of a 95-unit multifamily residential project at the River One site, the northwestern corner of the River One site. That's the vacant lot in between the Ziggurat building, that's the Pyramid building, and Tower Bridge. The applicant has a presentation tonight, so I'll keep my report brief to why this is before the Planning Commission and a little bit of background on the site. So to start off, the city entered into a development agreement with the property owner in 2006, which provides vested rights for the property owner to develop the site in accordance with the terms of the development agreement. The River One site is entitled for 250,000 square feet of office space, 42,000 square feet of retail space, 150 multifamily residential units, and a 300-room hotel. Back in 2019, the City Council approved the first phase of River One, and that includes a 196-room hotel and 55 residential units, which leaves 95 remaining that can be built. So this project before you tonight requires Planning Commission review and City Council approval to find the project is consistent with the collective standards as outlined in the development agreement, which includes Plan Development Overlay 30, PD 30, the Washington District Specific Plan, and the Rayleigh's Landing Environmental Impact Report. Staff have reviewed the proposed design and have found that it meets all the development standards of those documents, with one exception, and that is the 3rd Street frontage. The 3rd Street frontage, the Washington District Specific Plan requires it to be stepped down and also be more activating, like retail or a mixed use, to really activate the space, make it more pedestrian-friendly street, and not have any blank facades. So really, the Washington plan wants, windows, architectural elements that activate it, round entry, doors, architectural features such as that. So a minor deviation from the specific plan is needed from the Planning Commission tonight for this project. Staff is supportive of this deviation as for the reasons outlined in the agenda report. And staff recommends the Commission approve Planning Commission Resolution 23-2PC. And should the Commission approve this item tonight, it is likely going to be heard by the City Council at their next meeting on September 27th. This concludes my report. I look forward to your questions. And as I mentioned, the applicant has a presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Laffey. With that, we'll open the public hearing and hear from the applicant.
Wait for the presentation. Randy Koss, I'm the president of Fulcrum Property. On behalf of Mark Freeman, Fulcrum, as well as the Teal family, Mike and Julie Teal and Rayleigh's, we were here before the commission in 2019 and received what I thought was probably the most glowing approvals we've ever received, or I've been part of in my 30-plus year career in real estate. So before we kind of presented phase 2, I thought to just remind people what phase 1 approvals were for, because I think it's important to provide context. You want to go to the next? Obviously, everybody knows where the site is. It is probably the most special site in the region, right next to the Tower Bridge, whether it's the Michelin Guide or the news show or any review you see of Sacramento and the Tower Bridge comes from this side of the bridge. So the Teals partnered with Mark Freeman and Fulcrum back in 2018. And this was kind of their crown jewel. There was River 1, River 2, the Ziggurat, River 3, which is Calsters, River 4, which is the apartments across the street, Capitol Yards. So we set out to feel out what we should do for this site that was special and really brought something significant, unique to the region in West Sacramento. Mark Freeman was an owner of the Kings. I ran real estate for the Kings. That's why I moved to Sacramento in 2014. We were very successful in the Kimpton Hotel and the residents above it. And we thought, like good developers, we can outdo what we did there. So we set out to build, do a similar project because hotels and residential actually really work together well. You go to the next slide. These 5 slides are just slides that we presented back then. And just to give you context, the residential building, 55 condos, was on the north side of the site. The hotel was on the south side of the site. And then there was a pool that connected them. And as you pulled in off Tower Bridge Gateway, there was a roundabout and valet parking. And it was always meant where you see phase 2 project there that would be an extension. And to address in advance Commissioner Anderson's comments before, we weren't going to build 240,000 square feet of office. The office we're building at phase 6 is purpose-built for our group and another group that's going to take the other 2 floors. So when we came and, one thing happened between the 2019 meeting and now is a global pandemic. We were slated to try to start this in summer of 20. Obviously, we were delayed. We spent that time relooking at the project, and we really didn't find many changes to make phase 1 hotel or residential. But coming out of that, we said, we really should start planning what phase 2. And the commissioners asked in 2019, what's phase 2 going to be? And we didn't know. We thought it could be some office, could be residential. And the demand is for residential. So we looked at it and said, so we have a hotel, we have the amenity base, obviously need for residential in the region, and what could really activate the site in a better way is why we chose residential, to add that to the back. It also helps us, complete improvements to 3rd Street and address 3rd Street, which the architect will talk about here in a minute. So go to the next slide. So I don't know if all of you or some of you have seen the renderings from the original. The building on the right is the condos. The building on the left is the hotel. The quotes you see were the quotes from the Planning Commission and the council hearings back in 2019 from the various commissioners and council members. So we thought they were pretty positive. People thought this was going to be pretty unique to the region, as we did. We hired great architects out of San Francisco, interior designers. If you look, bringing a hotel, upscale hotel, to the waterfront at the entrance and the exit from West Sacramento was critical. That 2nd level function space is an outdoor function space. We were targeting, 150 person events. There's a ballroom inside there. There's riverfront activation with a restaurant on the river and a bar on the pool and a coffee. So if someone from Calsters or walking along the river wanted to go grab a coffee or grab lunch, see the pathway on the south side of the site that you can walk off the river walk into the resort. You want to go to the next slide? As you can see, the context here, coming off the Tower Bridge, you'd pull into onto the site and up into a valet area to the right there. If you look, this is significant to what Young is going to talk about when he talks about the next building. You can see there's a level of parking under the building. Next, there's a door there where the loading is. And actually, as one thing as we look at projects and you design them and you design them from the start, this addition of these 95 units actually makes it better from a site perspective. In an urban resort or a resort, you want to hide cars. So the ability and loading and unloading. In our original plan, loading would have to go onto the site and into the loading dock. In this plan, they would come directly off of 3rd Street into the loading dock and out without having to enter the site. So that's definitely, it's always great to try to make the project better. When you think of site activation, the activation in urban resort is typically in the middle. So when you come in here, there's valet, there's a rooftop bar, it faces the city on the top level there, and then also faces the ballpark. There's, like I said, a coffee bar. There's the pool, which is for hotel guests and residents, and then there's the riverfront restaurant. And we had a second restaurant location that fronts Tower Bridge Gateway for a to-be-named restaurant. So in a resort, everything kind of happens in the middle, and doesn't happen on the sides. So as one of the commissioners asked, how are you going to address 3rd Street back in 2019? Well, we're addressing that now. So unfortunately, we had a long delay because of COVID and capital markets, but this will make the project better for the district and the region. Want to go to the next slide? And this is just, that was one commissioner, that was her only comment. She said pretty awesome. But when you look at the rendering of what this could and will be when it's done, and that's actually a view from one of the residences. And as Young starts to talk about the 95 units in the back, that's actually the view line in between the buildings from the amenity for the apartment. So those residents, those 95 residents would be able to enjoy the view of the city as well. So that's kind of our presentation. I'll turn it over to Young to talk about the building that's before you. But I thought it was important to give you the context on the massing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was a great presentation. So my name is Young Kim with the HRGA. I'm the local company, and I'm a principal over there. And then we've been working this project about 6 months. I'd like to share how we arrived at new phase 2. So it'll be pretty interesting. So if you can do next slide, and next, and next. So we're going to talk about the massing. So I think this is great view that everybody can arrive, how we arrive. So phase 1 is a great project. As you can see, is building massing is carefully designed. Where I see it from the starting, it's not like a rectangle building. It's a very organic shape. The geometry is already interesting. I believe that came from really understanding view, use, it almost placemaking, right? The core is all the amenity, arms around the building around it, and then everybody has a nice vista of it. So we're starting as a more L-shape, C-shape with a little broken view. I think those interesting building is really set apart from the another developed building. So this is not just residential, it's more like a placemaking as activation. So behind it, between phase 2 and 1 is Randy mentioned about the roundabout. So there is a sense of arrival, a lot of vehicle, people around it, and we study how we can make a building. We're starting with the I shape, C shape, all the, where we make an entry. Other really important thing is we like to make all the side is very frontage looking, not the back side. And then we think that 3rd Street is important, South Side is important, the other side is, gathering space. So we're treating building as really frontage all around it. And then, this shape, in a way, it makes sense here. So I think they arrived, and then we like to have a courtyard as a facing south, getting a lot of sun as well. So it's a transition from very active commercial space, and then we are making a little transition as a C, and then further west side, 3rd Street is more residential. So transition is another important, massing, and other thing is we have to respect the site level difference, which we have a 15 feet difference from 3rd Street to our roundabout. So those are all the consideration. I think we making interesting massing, field angle, shaped, placemaking. I think that's kind of, we think that the most successful project for this idea. So next slide. So we're going to talk about a little planning. Always orientation is important. So we can see north is upside, and the west side will be at 3rd Street, and then south is the entry. So phase 1 has a south off of this access with a roundabout in the middle. We kind of respect that. That's with gathering. So we place off the main lobby on the west side of roundabout. So you can see the little blank larger area, and then marrying with the lounge space and amenity. This will be using as a open office, lounge really, guest resident can, hang around, reading a book, study, and with the off of the open deck. So those really the making complete, I would say, focal roundabout area. Very active. And then as you move away from there, courtyard is a little quiet, and then move to the west is a Third Street. But, those roundabout and residential is 15 feet up. So it's a safer and then quality residential space we can provide from busy Third Street. And then, of course, Third Street and North Side, wraps with a landscape area for the resident. And those are, so site is, we have to talk about the vehicle, of course. The vehicle for apartment is really off from the Third Street and up north. And as you turn in, and we're gonna make them, park undergrounding, which is below this level 1. So resident will have a parking space, about 60 parking stalls underneath. We'll show it next slide. But this one is, you can see on the left, entire parking is, organically connecting it. It's not separated. So in a way, there's its own area, but, in terms of flow, will be smoothly transitioned. So phase 1 and 2, we put a lot of thoughts for the connectivity. And there's a service delivery in and out and separating from resident. The south side of the parking garage, there's a service access to the entire site. And bottom is our just conceptual section. As you can see, on the left is Third Street. So first one is basement with the entire parking, and 15 feet up, that's like a decking with a 5-story residential up. And then, of course, in the middle, that's our proposed courtyard. And plan is, like I kept saying, C shape with open to south. And upper right, the ground floor on the right is the main lobby with amenity space. And above level 2 and 5 is pretty residential unit. And then at the top level on the right, those are really another vista point. In the lounge with the outer patio, all the apartment people can enjoy the view, and then as well as across from the phase 1 building. So those kind of plan layout next. And we're going to talk about the elevation, and they'll show the rendering, but next. So those are 4 elevations, and I think from the top left is our main elevation from the roundabout. And, place of the window making is a little bit respect to the phase 1, and top patio is outstandingly identified. And then as you move to the right, and then top massing is coming down, and the base of the brick is vertically up. So each elevation is treating it a little more dynamically, so that it doesn't feel like any side of building is back of house looking. But instead of making base and body separated, I think we like to make a more vertically and horizontally connecting it, so a more dynamic look of it. I think those are good transition. I think we can make from the existing to the west and the new building and here. And then I'm sure everybody wants to see how the Third Street view look like. I think we can show the next slide. But main material, if you see here, so this view is oriented. You are coming off from the south to the roundabout. So imagine on the right side will be a hotel and condominium, and on the left will be this apartment. The ground floor is that, show the amenity space. People can sit outside, in and out, a little more transparent look. And the further inside will be the main entry. And angled balcony looking out to, access point. And the top level has a vista view to the area. And then you can glimpse the sea of the courtyard a little bit. So those are really playful with the neutral tone of the color, but also material-wise. Base and little vertical, we're going to use this brick as warmth to the residential, and then balcony projection and layering of the smooth stucco with we're going to use some cement board horizontal siding as a texture variation, and then color. And the interlocking massing is another kind of gesturing, darker black with the white matting is, massing is kind of interlocked. So next slide. And then this is the corner of the 3rd Street and then north entry point. As you can see, cars going up and on the right bottom inside going into the garage. So I think we're trying to minimize the traffic around the building, and then so that more residents can enjoy the outdoor space. You can see the corner is really a gateway as vertical with the punched opening, projected balcony, scattered around, and on the right side is the 3rd Street. So next slide will show how we like to treat the street activation. I think proportion and window placement and the balcony is important. Not only street activation. I think in terms of as an urban context, activation means we need to see as a whole building. Balcony as a window, and those are a lot of eyes on the street. I think those are working. On the right side is open deck, so you can see through the hotel behind. And then ground floor is sloping down, and we have a nice landscape buffer. And then behind is we're going to make an open garage with climbing plants. So then even the garage is open from the inside to the street. So I think there's another transparent looking rather than close the solid garage. So we like to make as open feel as possible and the street level as well. I think a landscape can make a lot of difference as well. And then we like to pay attention about the landscaping. And then 2nd floor, which is ground floor, that deck level with the balconies, tenants can come out, guests. So I think we think that this is a better way activating. This area is really not many have any retail, it's really difficult to feasible to do that. So we think that this is a good solution for this area as the development. I think that's a general. I think we're excited about the project, but I'd like to answer any question you might have. Thank you.
Can you explain why you don't think that retail or mixed use is feasible in this area?
Retail is really, even though I'm doing a lot of projects in Sacramento, and developers really struggle with the retail component. Part of the COVID and then part of the other financial point of view. So even though I recently do, it's a lot of places still empty, and it becomes less activation than as we like to be. So then some project we putting a residential also ground floor, and then in terms of that one is not really easy to rent it out because there are vandalism and then all the other issues. So I would say it's more realistic, and especially this area, I think we have to look at it as really proper pedestrian walking on the street it's really hard to solve. We really need to have, and then important thing is street parking is a must to activate the street. So this is all the roads of street parking is first, but I'm not sure there's another infrastructure there. And I think really it's my personal, or my 10 years experience with Sacramento, all the mixed-use building. Its vision is great, but in reality, it's really difficult. So I would say this will be much more successful than trying to putting a retail on the ground floor with always empty. Hope that answers your question.
Commissioner Delgado, did you have further questions?
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson.
You mentioned 61 parking spaces in the ground level. How many total units are we talking about here?
We have a 95 unit.
What would be the parking situation? Are we asking for off-street, on-street parking for some of that?
Let me address a couple things. Back to your retail question. You think about addressing the riverfront in the region. Well, Sacramento, West Sac, not a lot on the river. In an urban resort, which isn't There's not one in the region. You're going to have the nicest restaurant on the river. It's about 10,000 feet with the kitchen. You're going to have second level function space. You're going to have a rooftop bar that's 2,000 feet, and then a coffee bar that people can walk in from the riverfront, from Riverwalk, or come in and park valet or walk side. So the retail, there's a lot of retail on this. Will really activate the riverfront, so it's oriented there, 3rd Street, as far as activation. As far as parking, the 61 spaces versus 95. We valet park, the benefit of residential next to a hospitality, like the Sawyer across the river, is we can park more cars in the garage than there's parking space, because it's mostly valet. The valet helps. So some of these residents, if they choose, valet park. So that's the benefit of that common turnaround. You know, some people want valet, some people want to park their own cars. So because there's a hotel next to this, we'll have the ability to park as many cars. If there's an extra 30 cars, we can park them in the hotel. As well as if a guest wants to park on the street, they can, or if they want to valet park at the hotel to go to the restaurant or visit somebody, they'll be able to. So that's how the global will be able to address the parking. Additionally, you know, there's a large garage to the north there, 1,400 spaces. So if there's a need for additional parking, we would address that separately with the owner of that.
I'm sorry. How would you address that separately again? Would you explain that?
If we will be able to park the site on site. We have plenty of parking with valet. If we ever needed extra for a large event or whatever, we would approach the owner of the 1,400 space garage and try to use additional parking there. We don't need it. We use that as
well. So the hotel will have how many? Are you talking the hotel as the additional resource there?
Yeah, the hotel plus parking in the neighborhood as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the commissioners? Commissioner Squires.
In the page 4, bottom, elements of the on? Okay. I'm looking at page 4 of River 1 Phase 2 Design Review. At the bottom of the page, it says Coordination and Review. And there's a sentence that says, elements of the project site may also need approval from the Central Valley Flood Protection Board and/or the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, given its proximity to the Sacramento River levee. I would like to know who determines whether that approval is needed and when that approval would take place.
Part of the phase 1, it's the setback area between the building's setback 53. Phase 1 is setback 53 feet from the Riverwalk. So we would go back for certain elements of that setback to get approvals for that for phase 1 as part of the phase 1 approval.
So you're saying that's the only element that you're aware of that needs approval? Just setback?
Yeah.
You're not talking about the strength of the ground itself to hold right near the river?
The reason we set the bill in meeting with the Central Valley Flood Board and the Water Board, the reason why the building set back 3 feet beyond purview of the levee. Phase 1 building.
Okay.
Beyond the purview of the levee, because the levee comes up the river and goes across the Riverwalk.
All right.
Goes down, goes outside. Otherwise, you'd have to get Army Corps built, which wasn't.
So there are no other elements that may also need approval then?
No.
Even though it says it?
It's basically for in the setback area. If we want to do landscaping and other things, we'd have to get there.
Any other questions from the commissioners?
May I make a comment? I'm having difficulty with this parking sufficiency. When we have that many housing units, and we're saying in effect that a third of them are going to be parking off street. Is that basically what we're going to have to deal with?
Clarify. There's 61 spaces under the new building. under the other building where we have valet parking, all the residents in Phase 1 are going to valet park their cars. So we have parking in that building to valet park people. Some people choose to park on the street. We have other projects where we have parking on site. People choose to park on the street cheaper, they get a permit from the city. So that's an option, but we can park, otherwise we wouldn't want to build the project. So we can park everybody on site, those extra 34 units if they need parking. Some people will opt to have valet parking. So we have other parking. It's a large garage if you combine both.
Mr. Laffey, did you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I'll just jump in. This project does meet the minimum parking requirement. The minimum requirement is 57 spaces, but also recent assembly bill gets rid of our ability to require parking in urban areas that have access to high density or mass transit. So this is within the area of AB 2097, so we can't require parking anyways, but if we were to require it, they meet the minimum.
So I have a question about the deviation. Did you think of other designs to promote more activation on the street, on 3rd Street? I understand the resort's going to activate inside in the waterfront, but we also want activation on 3rd Street. So are there any other design options to have more activation there?
So we have, hi, Commissioners, it's Gurjeet, who with Fulcrum Property. So we have a couple of options to continue the activation on 3rd Street. One of the biggest items that I think that will really activate 3rd Street is there's a arts plan that the city has that we will also be supplementing with additional art on our project along 3rd Street. And I don't think it made its way into the presentation, so I'm not sure if there's a way to show it up on the screen right now, but if there is, it would be good to get it on the screen, but if not, it was part of the agenda packet. Yes, and so there's 4 pieces of placemaking artwork in the current city plan to place art on all 4 corners. And then we are going to be supplementing that plan with additional art on 3rd Street. We're looking at placing signage at the corner as well as an art activation along 3rd Street within the landscape buffer between that and the garage. We haven't determined exactly what that art piece is, but we wanted to do it in conjunction with the city's plans and come together with a holistic plan.
Okay, and how many linear feet does that take up, phase 1 or phase 2? Because it says phase 3 might likely have retail components. Can you break down linear feet for phase 2 and phase 3?
I have a rough estimate. So the frontage along the entire western site's roughly about 325 feet. The building itself is about 180 feet, and the River 1 Phase 2 site's about 250 feet. So the building is a little over half of the frontage along that side.
Thank you, Mr. And then how high is the first balcony and windows for the residents?
About
15 feet above?
Yeah.
Okay. And then just for phase 3, is there a way to condition approval to require retail on that? I think this might be for Mr. Tillier or our city attorney.
Yeah, so as long as the DA remains in effect, and I think it has at least a few more years to go on it, they will be required to come back to the Planning Commission for design review like we're doing tonight, as well as City Council. And that would still need to be reviewed against the collective standards that are referenced in the development agreement. Part of what the challenges we're working off here is we are working off the specific plan and that plan development that were done decades ago. And so we certainly have some newer ideas, you know, since the 80s and 90s when those things were first actually established. But the Planning Commission will see the next phase of this when that's ready, and it's something we can discuss then. I'm not confident to actually mandate that it include retail. Hopefully it will, but we can't. I'm not certain we could mandate that at this time.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Delgado?
Just to follow up on what Chair Sablon said, it seems like if any area of West Sacramento would be conducive to mixed-use, retail, residential, it would be 3rd Street, considering you've got restaurants to the north of the train tracks, you've got restaurants to the south of Tower Bridge. But this is the second time I've heard a developer tell me that mixed use is not something that's feasible in West Sacramento. But yeah, the Washington district seems to be probably the place where I'd like to see this most happen because it's the most walkable area that we have. Quite a few, what would you call it? Not necessarily high density, but quite a few homes within walking distance of interesting things. So while I understand and will likely vote yes to approve the, what would you call it? The what is this? Someone help me with the term for this.
The deviation? Or
Yeah,
the design
deviation,
plan?
deviation, thank
Yeah.
you. It just seems like a bit of a wasted opportunity considering how much new development and opportunities are going to be in that area as it stands. So
Our company first started out primarily in retail. It was only later on, probably 10 years ago, that we got more into office and residential. One of the biggest challenges within the Washington district right now is that within the 2 largest office buildings there, most of the employees are not back to office. And when you don't have everybody back to office, it makes it really hard and difficult even for the existing restaurant owners that are located there to have enough customers to stay open. It's a huge challenge for them. And so that's one thing that we're watching really, really closely is how do we get more office within West Sacramento? If there is an opportunity to keep the state there and to keep them in the office, that would go a long way in having a good customer base to provide customers to the existing retail as well as to support additional. But at this time, it's hard to make that future decision.
yes, but I would also say that hinging an entire plan on office workers is a bit short-sighted, especially with so many people, what would you call it, being, work remote and things like that, where we've got opportunities to engage the community and making it places that community want to go to. So again, just my 2 cents on the matter. I don't doubt that you've spent lots of time looking at this and studying the trends. It's just, as for the city itself, I would like us to be looking more at, developing places. I kept hearing that term, but I don't necessarily see it in this project. But
So let me just address that, because my personal opinion is this is the best sense of place you're going to see in the Sacramento region. I don't know where there's an urban resort with a scale hotel, condos on the river, riverfront restaurant by a Michelin-rated chef on the river, a coffee bar that invites people off the river to walk in from the Riverwalk, and also walk in from Tower Bridge Gateway if you're coming from Sacside, or pathway to walk right in off of 3rd Street up to the coffee bar and restaurant to order breakfast, or to go to a rooftop bar. So there's unique aspects to an urban resort that just don't exist. We created the barn. We had several offers for where Franquette is now, and we turned them down, and we created something unique. When you create, in our new building, Phase 6, there's 4,000 square feet of retail. So what I think the Bridge District in Washington is unique retail. The struggle with retail is it has to have a sense of place. I mean, in addition to where the restaurant is, a lot of green space in the middle of the resort here for the public to enjoy. There's a large lobby with a grab and go for people to come in and grab a sandwich or salad or whatever. So sense of place is around the valet. The energy is not on the outside. You create a sense of place to invite people. Sometimes when you have street front retail, you just don't want street front retail will fail. J Street in Sacramento, cars are just going. There's no street parking here. So there's not a reason to stop. So it's not just off Swords. If you look along 3rd Street, some places that are doing well and others that didn't survive. So it's always a chat. We had the problem with the arena when we built it on L Street. It's like the city wanted retail, hard enough to do retail within Doco because you need the customers, you need the demand. So the whole resort is a sense of, so you want to invite people in to get that respite from the urban environment, but be in the urban environment because you're looking at the city, whether you're at the rooftop bar, sitting by the pool, sitting on the riverfront, facing deck of the restaurant or the bar, having a drink or a coffee. I mean, that's where the energy is. That's pulling it off. So if you're doing it on one side, you want it. So that's when we designed the whole thing. That was the whole reason why the retail was sort of the energy was inside. That's where the hotel, the hospitality is also kind of that address your question.
I appreciate your response. Thank you.
Also, related to this, can we see on the map where the Riverwalk pathway would be that connects from 3rd Street? Or on one of the renderings?
Yeah, we can get that pulled up on the screen. There's a public access easement along the alley driveway along the northern side. So the city has plans long-term to put in a pocket park there connecting 3rd Street and the Riverwalk with alley improvements, lighting, landscape, better pavement material. We're getting it pulled up here. Yeah, I think that's probably the best one we'll get. So along that northern side, you can see the drive aisle goes all the way through. So there's a public access easement over that. And our economic development department is working working on an alley improvement project. So our economic development department director, Tracy Michaels, is here. She can go into that more if you have additional questions on the project.
So wait, where on the map will that be?
Along the northern side?
Yeah, so at the top of this map, so this will really be between this project and the ziggurat.
Okay.
Here. Button is.
Good evening, Commission. I'm Tracy Michael, the Economic Development and Housing Director.
So if you want me to guide through using the pointer?
Okay. So currently, we have actually a capital improvement project funded to create these additional enhancements. They need to be done in partnership with the project ideally so that we are designing in coordination, but it includes acquiring additional property on the north side of this access corridor so that we can create improved access to the riverfront, a little parklet, and placement of public art, which is an intentional strategy for activating a space. Some of our most Instagrammable areas in the city actually revolve around our public art. And so we'll also be looking at enhancements to this corridor right now to really try to draw people up onto the Riverwalk. It includes, right now we're looking at a mural along a retaining wall here, some lighting, enhanced materials to really create a better sense of place. We also have public improvements being planned really on all 4 corners of this property, as well as the entire frontage along Riverwalk Trail and Riverwalk Park. So we have multiple locations where we're really trying to use public art and all other landscaping improvements to draw people to the site and through the site and to connect from 3rd to the riverfront.
Thank you. Well, while you're up here, do you have any any data or any information on viability of mixed use in the Washington area?
Well, I can use as a very recent example, my department office has just relocated to the ground floor of our West Gateway project, which is located on Tower Bridge Gateway in Grand. There's a retail space on the ground floor that has sat vacant for several years now. Part of our partnership in developing that project provided us an opportunity to occupy that space almost as a city hall annex, if in the event that they were not successful in getting a retail operator in there. So it was very challenging. There are a lot of challenges with this site also, which weren't highlighted in the presentation. And that it's a beautiful site, but it has its own challenges. It's got grade changes and access challenges, and so it's a very tight site to work with. And there is retail on the site. And while there isn't retail with this particular phase, using the public art as activation, again, is a very strategic way to bring people to the site and activate the area. But there are a lot of mixed-use projects that have difficulty bringing the type of retail that will activate the space.
Thank you.
And sorry, I have a question for Mr. Kim. Young. For the service access, what would be the maximum size of a vehicle that can accommodate?
Service to the area?
Yeah.
I think, gosh, I don't know. It's fairly big. So basically the trash truck can go in, city trash service. I'm not sure how to describe it, but yeah.
Okay.
And then more, all the hotel, delivery truck, everything, we designed for the allowed to go in under the garage. So it will be like a lot of trucks is not be seen around the area. It will go in and then go inside the garage and then do their business.
Any further questions from the commissioners? No? Okay. I'm going to close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission for deliberation.
Did we ask for any other public comments besides the developer's presentation?
Thank you, Mr. City Attorney. Do we have any other public comment?
We have no request to speak on this item.
Thank you. Any discussion from the commissioners?
No, nothing really. I just want to comment and think that, or state that I believe our city council members got this correct back in 2019. I think I see what they see. I appreciate the concept. And I imagine that things may adjust and flux along the way, but I understand it's going to come before the Planning Commission as well as the City Council. I do understand the definition as far as how you envision the retail and how you built that into the site in totality. It seems really exciting. It looks good in the renderings that you've provided. I don't have any concerns, and I'm prepared to make a motion unless my colleagues feel otherwise.
Commissioner Squires? Vice Chair Jackson, any comments, questions? Okay. Commissioner Linker?
I just want to say thank you, and I didn't catch your name, the gentleman in the lavenderish shirt, for your presentation, because you can see your passion and a lot more understanding after you really broke down what's going to be available within the building without adding additional on the ground floor. So thank you.
Commissioner Sada? Commissioner Anderson? I just have a couple comments. So I was one of the commissioners on here in 2019 and blown away by phase one. I do have concerns with the minor deviation, but hearing from the project proponents about the difficulty with retail and from our director, I'm feeling a little more comfortable, and the connectivity with the art will help activate the street and the public walkway there. I'm concerned about doing this regularly as a commission, though, deviating from the activation, but we do have some backup activation here. I think as a commission, we should be mindful of this going forward if we are going to approve this, to just be aware that it's important to activate the streets to get the public out there, and it's a public safety issue too. And then I think Commissioner Olivares was ready to do something.
I've got one more quick comment before we get a motion, and that is that if you would like to approve this the way we've been discussing it with that minor deviation, we'll need to make the deviation part of your motion because that didn't make it into the draft resolution. So the motion would essentially be something approving the resolution with the added provision of approving the minor deviation from the design standards.
Any motion from the commission? Do we want to continue this to another meeting, or?
Sorry, can you please explain
So what we're doing here is recommending that the council consider and approve this. And what's missing from the draft resolution that we prepared is essentially a recital that says that part of what we're recommending is this deviation from the design standards for the improvements along Third Street.
So do we need an approval of the resolution with an amendment to include the minor deviation?
Exactly, yes.
I'll make the motion to approve the resolution with the amendment as noted by the city attorney.
We have a motion by Commissioner Oliveras. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second by Vice Chair Jackson. Ms. Flores, can you do the roll call, please?
Commissioner Olivares?
Aye.
Commissioner Squires? Commissioner Linker?
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson?
Aye.
Commissioner Delgado?
Aye.
Vice Chair Jackson?
Aye.
Chair Sablon?
Aye. Thank you. With that, the motion passes, and this will be at the City Council next meeting.
That is what we're targeting now, and that the council has changed their September meeting schedule around, so they will not meet again until September 27th. So that is the meeting we're targeting at this.
Great. Thank you, and best of luck to you. Administrative function part 2. Any commissioner communications? None? Well, it's good seeing everyone. We haven't met in a while. Mr. Tilley, are we meeting in September?
Yes, we will meet at our next meeting. For sure, we'll be doing a workshop item that I'll be bringing before you.
Okay, thank you. With that, we'll adjourn. Thank you.